And I invite you to come to a comfortable seated position so that you feel comfortable. You can also feel free to lie down if you want to. And if you're seated, just feel that you're kind of titrating or pendulating in your axis to the front and back. You can free up your sit bones. Feel that the shoulders are rolled back, that you can close your eyes. Or maybe you have them in a soft gaze, so you're gazing through your eyelashes to the floor. And that you feel that you can exhale. And maybe that the pressure from the day can leave the body. And that we remind ourselves that when we're practicing, that we're not doing this to be a good person or just to fulfill something that's coming from the outside, but that layer by layer from our experience or world of experience, we want to teach ourselves to be in contact and to sense us. And that every time we practice this, it's like putting a coin in a wallet or on your bank account, stacking it up, and that we increase our capacity to sense and to be present in our body. And maybe with this inner alignment, you can arrive within yourself and sense the connection, the space over the top of your head, the connection to the floor, and to really connect with the space that you're sitting on. And you don't have to open your eyes. You can feel that you can turn your palms up if your hands are on your knees, and that the thumbs can connect with your pinky and your ring fingertips. And no matter if you're on the floor, lying down, or if you're in a seated position, we're arriving here with our mudra. And the mudra that we're activating today is the Prana Mudra, or the mudra for health. And sense and feel for yourself what part of your health you want to nourish. Maybe it's not only the body, maybe it's your mental space that needs some nourishing or some releasing. Or maybe you want to strengthen your connection to nature, especially with all the home office that's taking place. So sense what's really important for you and your health right now. So find whatever you need and really bring it to this beginning, our meditation at the beginning of the class. So we can collect our whole being, our body, our emotional body with our feelings and sensations. And we can tell our body and our bodies that I'm present, I'm here for you. And then I invite you for the first couple of moments to become still and just accept whatever's here. If there's a feeling of too much, of work, of emotions, if there's maybe the feeling of needing more space, if there are other feelings, maybe that are positive or other feelings that are prevalent, or what's going on in your family, and especially if you're with your family and there's a lot going on, feel if you need more space for yourself, more time for yourself. Just embrace whatever here. And just allow yourself to be with you intimately for a couple of moments. And to hold yourself, embrace yourself as if we would others, so that we can align and rise internally. And then very gently, as if you would open a window to the outside, and there is some soft breeze of air coming in that's really invigorating, making you feel alive. Feel that you're probably opening an inner window, and that with this breath that you're releasing and taking in, that there is something new coming to you that's bringing life to you. And we don't want to force our breath or regulate it. No yama, ayama. But just let it be there. And for the first couple of moments, just feel where it wants to guide us in our body. And feel that breathing is actually movement. Maybe the movement is happening in your belly. Maybe the movement is happening in your chest. And give permission that with this room that's opening with the breath, that you can expand in this space and be with yourself there. No pressure, we're not aiming for anything specific. We want to be present with ourselves. And see how fast or how slow your breathing is right now. And we still are here for approximately 5 long deep breaths. Really stay connected to your sensations and being with you. Maybe the body gets into its own movement. Maybe there's a vibration happening, that swinging of the body with the energy. An inner pulsation happening. And after these 5 conscious breaths, feel into the support underneath your body, into this connection. Inhale very gently and slowly, holding this connection, and see if there are other rooms that want to open. And then with the next exhale, release your mudra. Place your hands on your body, that you feel that your shoulders feel free. And if you spontaneously want to move, give your body permission to do so. And you can sing the mudra with me. I'm not hearing you. Or listen to it. So that we, from the inside to the outside, can come into this constructive community. And that from each and every one of us, there's something coming from the inside to the outside, and it unites and strengthens each other. We are asking for peace and for a mindful, constructive being with each other. Om Samavatu Sahanau Punaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Ichasvinavaditamastu Ma Vitvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. And then come back to yourself. Reunite your palms in front of your heart or forehead and bow to your own life energy, the exchange between heaven and earth. And slowly come back up to a seated position. And contrary to what we are used to, I would like to start this class with a meditation. So if you've been sitting the whole day, feel free to lie down if you need to. The only thing that is important is that you stay conscious. And it's not important if you want to lie down or stay seated. And that you can, seated or lying on your back, have a straight back. So that you can feel the spine as you lie down at center, or also at center when you are sitting. And I would like us to gather or collect ourselves in the meridian system so that we can practice the smaller circuit. So when we're inhaling, or with an inhale, we're ascending over our back from the sacrum to the crown, and as we're exhaling, we're going through the midline from the forehead or the crown down to our pelvic floor. And I invite you to watch out for two things in this meditation. So if you can really work at center when you're inhaling or exhaling, and if there is a slight deviation coming at certain points where you can't hold your consciousness at center, and if this happens, to see that when you're coming back there in the next round, you probably can focus on staying in the midline. And if it's possible to have this like broad band of consciousness stream, and we're starting at the navel, and just feel free to do this in your own breath cycle so that you have not to follow me. So this is why I'm not telling you to inhale and to exhale, but that you can really go with your whole inhale the whole way from your pelvis or your pelvic floor to the crown, and with an exhale really descend from the crown to your pelvic floor at midline. So before we start, let's see that we arrive well. And we're doing this for the first 5 minutes of the class. I'm starting a timer. And you see how far you can stay present. And if with every repetition there's more centering happening. So I start the timer. And you see where you're collecting yourself from. Maybe with an exhale, descend from the navel to the pelvic floor and start the cycle there. And feel free that if you need to, or this helps you, to take the inhale in small sips while the consciousness rests at one space and then ascends further. And the same for the exhale if you need to, or if this is more workable for you. And if you feel that the prana that flows between heaven and earth starts to move the body, don't get stiff or rigid, but really try to allow the body to be moved by that exchange in alignment. And then wherever you are in your cycle, really calmly lead it down to the pelvic floor with an exhale, so that you're at the roots in Mula Bandha or Mula. And then in with deep within your belly, lift it up behind your navel into the hara. Anchor it there. And maybe you can sense that, stay connected to the floor and slowly open your eyes and continue to breathe. And with an exhale, let us release our seated position. So if you're seated or have been seated, feel free to lie down on your back. If you're on your back, roll over the side and slowly, whatever you need, at a stretch, a yawn on your back. Let's reunite in the downward dog and feel some movement, maybe some legs that want to lift, the neck that wants to circle. Maybe really this sensing and expanding of your prana, life energy, throughout the body with your breath and with your movement. And feel also this contact of the floor as you move and shift. And whatever wants to relax, let it relax and drop to the floor. And we're still here, mobilizing very gently with our breath and in connection to the floor for 3 long deep breaths. 1. Feel this release. 2. And 3. And then from this movement, more stillness, so arrive at center. Remind yourself of your sankalpa, so this alignment of your class where you focus on or for your health. And we're bringing this into the spines through a physical movement or through the physical movement of vinyasa. So navel stays to spine as a clear focus of our sankalpa. We're coming forward into plank with an inhale. With an exhale, we can bring the knees down or have the legs straight. And then slowly our knees or straight legs come down with an exhale into a chaturanga. The shoulders are well anchored, rolled back as we descend onto the floor. Feel how the tension leaves the body. Release the neck, let the shoulders circle. Elbows are drawing back. And we can slowly rise with an inhale, straightening the arms to the best of our abilities, no pain in the lower back. And with an exhale, feel if you can hold that space and allow the shoulders to really stay anchored to your pelvis. With an inhale, draw the heart up more. And with an exhale, look over your left shoulder. See if your right shoulder can stay really firmly anchored. Look forward with an inhale again, and with an exhale, turn the head slowly to the right. See if the left shoulder can stay firmly anchored, it is not moving. Come forward with an inhale, and with an exhale, slowly descend back onto the floor. We can release all the tension from the body and maybe just descend for a moment onto our forearms. And really, very deliberately allow your head to release. I'm just lifting my head so you can hear me with the mic. We can release the front side of the thighs, the groins. And breathe here deeply into a soft belly for 3 long deep breaths. 1. And really the belly may push into the floor as you inhale. 2. So with all the social distancing that's happening, allow your social engagement system to stay online. And the turning of the head, the asanas we did just before, and this deep belly breathing the rising of the breath from the belly to the chest, this expansion really helps us with our youngest branch of the autonomic nervous system. So we want to learn that we are open and wide, expanded, but also to have a clear focus. So with an exhale, see if you can draw the navel to the spine. And from that, lifting with an inhale slowly the head. Feel that with an exhale, your arms may leave the floor and your fingertips come directly under your shoulders. And we keep the navel engaged, glued to the spine as we push ourselves up with an exhale and into the downward dog. Feel again that you can move freely here, that you can wake up the body. And if you're lifting the legs, do this as you would in flow, and maybe there's this spontaneous movement of core shoulder circles or knee circles happening. So these are just some inspirations. Maybe you want to activate the sides of the body by twisting on your heels, keeping the navel, bending the knees as you do so. So these are all options that you could try to use the downward dog to work into different areas of the body or keep the focus on different areas of the body. Here it would be the shoulders that stay anchored with the side vinyasa. And whatever you have chosen, arrive slowly with me again into downward dog. We come forward with an inhale into plank and with an exhale onto our knees. And if you're not happy with half saddle in yin and flowing back, just as an alternative, go into the lunge position, where the right leg is forward and the left leg is behind you, with a hip extension on the left, so the left knee really is behind the left hip on the floor. So whatever you choose. So if you chose half saddle, we really want to sit beside our foot on the floor. And maybe you need some pillows or blankets to help your ankle or your knee. Maybe you want to sit on a bolster and roll back down on a bolster. So your lower leg is your lower back is supported. And if you can't go all the way, feel free to have your arms behind you and work your pelvis for a deeper stretch. And if you have chosen the lunge position, feel that you could really work with the distance between your left knee and your right heel to feel what kind of intensity works for you today. So let's go, whatever you've chosen. Then leave the hands, if you're in lunge position, on your front thigh. If you don't want to go down with your hands on the floor, that's fine too. And we're here for 3 minutes. So when you're in the lunge position and 3 minutes are way too long for you, just feel free to come out when you notice that there's a struggle happening in the pose. So you're not tensing up, but really try to feel this boundary. So contact and being in contact is like the premise here, or what we don't want to be or go into the head and think about stuff, but we really want to stay in connection with our body, what's happening in our shoulders or in our jaw. And can I still sense the floor? And really be present with what I'm doing, so that there is a small stressor happening, but have also a little bit of distance to it, so we can be with it without reacting or tensing up. Okay, like feeling okay, this is kind of a stimulus and I'm going with it and I see where it leads me. And everything's fine. But really make sure that you're aware of what the shoulders are doing if you're working on the lower half of the body. For all the others that are on the floor and you're in half saddle, remind yourselves that there is no pain in the lower back, that you can always work with pelvic tilts to increase or decrease the lumbar lordosis or the opening of the stocking in front of the left leg. And that the neck and head is always free to move, so that we're not tensing up the jaw or the neck, but really staying alive and connected. Jaw can be completely released, so that the masseter, this muscle that connects our upper and lower jaw, where there's the vagus running through it, that there is a lot of space for communication, bottom up and top down. And for closing the masseter, it's really difficult to be in contact affectionately with ourselves. So keep it open, released. Yes. We still are in the pose for 30 seconds. And head stays free. And really taking a deep breath is fine. Last 14. And if you hear the gong and you're on the floor, very slowly release the pose, turning to your right, freeing up the left leg, and coming back down, lying on the floor. And if you're in the lunge position, really shift to your left, having the hands on the floor, and maybe come onto your belly, or turn around and come onto your back. Super slow. Very calmly come into your lying position. See that you feel comfortable. So maybe you want to pad up your legs, and we're resting for 3 minutes. And I would like you to sense the difference between your right and your left half of the body, especially when it comes to the groins and the thighs, the front side of your thighs. And just to sense if your body is balanced or if you can feel the work, what's happening, how you're sensing it. And once you found this, to arrive on the floor again. And once you have this connection and you sense your body integrating and your brain noticing this integration, come back into this work where you're drawing the breath up with an inhale over the center line at the back. And then with an exhale, the breath may descend again over the midline down to the pelvic floor. And if you like that, sense if something has changed to the beginning of the class where we first practiced this meditation with our breath. Especially on the left side of the body, if something has changed. And if you're circling with your consciousness, if there's something that's tensed up, or if it's possible that everything is released and free. So that the shoulders are free, that the palms of your hands are soft, that the backside of the knees are soft, and that the forehead is released and relaxed. Sense how long and how deep is your inhale. How much capacity is there for breathing? And sense also the sinking and falling as you go over the midline in front, exhaling to the floor. And we can anchor all our work in the body. And we're doing this as we have in the beginning of the class, so feel where you are in your own rhythm after the gong, where you are on your way, inhaling or exhaling. We arrive with the end of an exhale on our pelvic floor, drawing the energy deep into the pelvis and up behind the navel. Maybe we can find with an exhale Uddiyana Bandha and anchoring the navel to the spine, which reminds us we are on the floor, supported and with us. Strengthening our sankalpa of health. And then slowly with an inhale with the navel to the spine, bending the right knee. And with an exhale, bending the left knee. It can come to the other leg, and we're really having the low back elongated. The neck is free, so this cranial sacral connection is well established. And then when you have made sure that your navel is to the spine, straighten one leg with an inhale, and with the exhale let the other leg follow. And let's bring both arms up with an inhale. And with an exhale, feel again that we're anchoring the shoulders to the pelvis, and we can push our feet up towards the ceiling and really reaching through the legs like a fountain. And we can inhale here, and with an exhale come from the lower belly, not from the chin, as you rise up. And we can bring with an inhale the arms forward, and with an exhale the legs can drop so that we can still feel that our navel is to the spine and there's no pain in the lower back. The shoulders are anchored. And in this boat position, we're breathing very slowly for 3. Trying to keep the navel to the spine for 1. Maybe your legs are higher up than mine. That's fine too. 2. Feel that you try to push the feet away for this elongation. 3. And then we slowly come back up with the legs with an inhale, releasing the head. Exhale, bending our knees to the sides of our torso into a happy baby. And maybe you want to take a hold of the outside of your feet. Maybe you want to hold your ankles, maybe the backside of your thighs. All of that is fine. I really want you to have this broad collarbones and this free mediastinum space. So make sure that you feel the backside of your shoulder blades and your shoulders on the floor, whatever grip you've chosen, and rock from side to side so we can feel that we're opening up the groins, the inner groins, by pushing slowly and gently with the push of our hands, our knees further down towards the floor. And we're here for 3, 1. Really directing our life force of prana into new grooves. 2, and all of our nerves in the spine have a sensory part and a motor part. So we really want to activate both of them as we're working here to connect to our full potential of bottom up and top down. And then slowly come into center again. And we all bring our hands to the back side of the upper thigh on our hamstrings. Let's widen the shoulders for a moment. If we've lost this, we're taking a little bit of momentum, bringing the feet a little bit up. And then with an exhale, we can come up into a half boat. And maybe with your hands on your back of your thighs, you can straighten your legs just a little bit. The core is still engaged. We can slowly mobilize our lower back and roll back. Inhale when the feet are up, and with an exhale, we're trying to come back into the straight spine, heart elevated, half boat, or maybe fuller boat. Let's do this one more time. We're inhaling, rolling back with control. There's no shifting happening. Navel to spine, and with an exhale, we're coming into Navasana or half boat. If you feel you would like to try this, see if you can take a hold of your ankles and come into Konasana with the legs apart. And we can go into the open leg rocker if we feel like this and pull ourselves up as the pelvis rolls back up into a neutral position. Awesome. And wherever you are, with your hands here or with your hands on the backside of your thighs, we're still breathing and we're holding this full body ignition, and then with the next exhale, let the knees bend, the feet come to the floor, and we're slowly descending into the caterpillar or Paschimottanasana. And see wherever your body wants to take you. It's not important how far you come down. It really is about what you can sense on your way into the pose. So remember, we're trying to work the sensory and the motor aspects of our nerves and come out of unconscious patterns. So that's why it's so important to really stay connected to our health in the moment and have this bottom-up sensation that arise from the body really inform our brain so we can learn naturally. And wherever you are, further down or further up, we're breathing for 1. Feel how the whole back unfolds 2 as you inhale. And 3. See if the head is still released. And it's still about the sensing. So allow the feet to relax. And we're slowly navel to spine, rolling back up to a seated position. Very good. We're exhaling and we're doing the other side of the pose. So the left leg is straight, the right leg is behind us in half saddle. If you chose this position or you want to try it on this side, if you know your knee is fine. And make sure you pad it up if you need this, ankles, knees, or if you prefer the other version for activation of the groin. If the further the knee is away from your heel, the more intense the pose becomes for your psoas and also the stocking of the right leg. Find that you can help yourself avoiding the stretch or the tension by keeping the sit bones together. You really want to move into the groin area of your right leg. So if you are in saddle, no pain in the lower back. And if you're in the dragon position, work with all the fine details and sense. I'm starting the timer. Just move very slowly. There's enough time. And I invite you to really be in connection with yourself, because you're working with your own body and with your own tissues and with your own brain. And we really want to find this boundary of a slight stressor or a stressor we can be with. And see that we cultivate this space where we're not just trying to hang out and pass the time, but really find with this stressor choices awareness. Maybe the heart that's still lifted, so we're not in collapse but still unfolding, so that we can practice this in a safe environment and be in contact. Everyone's okay? Good. And we're still here for approximately 1 minute. And I see if there's anything I can help you with. And again, it's about our consciousness. We want to expand the capacity of what we can be conscious of. So we're going into areas where there is tension. And how much is it possible for us, if we're working on attention, to be aware of a multiple array of things simultaneously? So start with one thing and see if you can hold it consciously and with awareness, and then slowly add a couple of more things, like the connection to the floor, the breath, the sensations that are rising from your body, your power of choice in this moment, maybe some playfulness. And if we start with this work, our consciousness jumps from one item to the next in our awareness, and we can train our consciousness to really hold this expansion where we can be aware at the same time of a couple of things, and that's expanding our pool or expanding capacity. And if you're jumping around and you're in pendulation, see where you are and probably find if you can be with two things at the same time. And that's the releasing gong. So wherever you are, when you're in the saddle pose, and I'm showing you the other side, but listen to my voice. Feel that you can slowly come, now I'm showing the right side, come onto your left leg and slowly releasing the right one, so that the knee, the hip and the ankle joint is in alignment again on one long straight line, and really slowly come back down onto your back. And maybe you want to circle the ankles just to reestablish the flow, the integration. And if you're in dragon, feel free to come onto your belly or then turn onto your back. And first we are again arriving on the floor, sensing the contact here. See if you want to change something so that the connection to the floor can become more balanced. And if you have the feeling that you're really nicely connected to the floor, come to your breath. So that there's maybe the sensation of, oh yeah, I'm actually being held, I'm being carried. And with that sensation, I can slowly come into flow. So there's the solid support of the earth beneath you, and there are the soft waves of your breath. And maybe you want to feel that both sides of your body are now balanced when it comes to the groin and stocking area on the front of your thigh. And if there's this capacity to sense the floor, the breath, and maybe this integration that's happening throughout the tissues, you want to aid yourself or add the item of this energy work, where we can, with an inhale, come over the back in the midline, and with the exhale, descend in front. And both of these meridian lines at center are like sun and moon, like fire and water. We can also see this, although it doesn't represent the flow in the body, as the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system of this activation and calming or cooling of activation into relaxation, and that we are balancing those with our breath as we go over the midline up in the back and over the midline down as we exhale in front. So what we're training here is also if there's a lot of home office going on and there are a lot of things happening, and we can cultivate this space of awareness, our inner space of the body, that we can create a little bit more space to the outside. Check if the belly still can be very soft and can expand. And that we can stay empathic and warm and in connection. And we still have approximately 30 seconds. Are you still present? Are you still with your breath, with your connection to the floor, with sensing? What is softening as you exhale? And then stay in contact wherever you are with your own breath cycle, and with an exhale, at the end of the exhale at your pelvic floor, draw it up with an inhale deep within the body behind the navel, and with an exhale, just store that sankalpa with your creative energy, your focus of health, what you need right now, and come into bending both legs. The feet can slowly walk back, feel the contact to the floor that you're having and creating. Really try if you can move your lower limbs without engaging the upper body. So really have this supportive and supported feeling throughout the upper body, the torso. And then slowly bring your knees to your chest. Allow to rock a little bit. Stay with this unconditional self-acceptance of it's okay who and how I am right now. And let's gather this. Take a little bit of momentum. Our navel is still to the spine. We're inhaling here. And with an exhaling, we're coming back up to a seated position, no core here. Our feet are in front of us. And we're coming onto our toes, rocking a little bit back on our pelvis. So our spine is slightly rounded. We're keeping the core engaged and we're in this C curve. And we can have our hands resting on our lower legs and see if it's possible, and this should be a little bit of fun, that we're opening up the arms to the side with an inhale and straightening the legs, and with an exhale we're not supporting our feet on the floor, but we're coming back into the C curve with our hands barely touching our lower legs. And with an inhale we can find this expansion, and with an exhale come into this embrace, into the seat position. Our feet barely touching last time with an inhale. And with an exhale, this centering. And then slowly from here, flex the feet with an inhale, and with an exhale, allow the feet to relax on the floor and bend over. And see if you, with an exhale, can arrive at center again. And then with an inhale, we can lift the arms. With an exhale, bring them behind us, our fingers facing forward to the back or to the side. Feel free to adapt the position, adapt the position to whatever feels comfortable for you, in the shoulders in front. And we're slowly rising up with an inhale into table position. The hands can walk in with an exhale if we need this. So we have really a well-supported feeling of our feet and hands pushing into the floor. And feel that do not want your pelvis to collapse, but really you want to lift the pelvis up to the sky and keeping the heart drawing towards your tip of the nose. The butt is working hard here, and we're breathing for 1. And 2. And then slowly we're inhaling, focusing on this expansion throughout the heart and shoulder area. And with an exhale, we can slowly descend with the pelvis on the floor. Make sure that the shoulders are not collapsing, the heart stays lifted, and can slowly bring our soles of the feet together. So I have to move away a little bit so you can see me. And come into the butterfly position or Baddha Konasana. We can roll our thighs into external rotation and really create space in the hip joint. And feel free to modify the distance of your heels to your pelvis. Sometimes if the heels are really, really tight to the pelvis, it's very hard due to our anatomical circumstances to go into a forward bend because we're blocking ourselves. So feel free to play with this distance. The legs don't have to be really, really close to the pelvis. Sometimes it's a better activation for the midline of the legs to really have the feet further away from your pelvis. Feel free to pad up your thighs, and the hands may come and push from the front into our lower leg so we can come forward with our pelvis. And with an exhale, really try not to pull yourself, but to release the arms. So we're not fighting with the shoulders and everything gets very tight and cramped up. But that we can have this unfolding of our legs with this reaching forward of our torso and our pelvis without any struggle. And how much space do I personally feel I've got in the front of my hip joint? And if we're just hanging back and the belly's out and we can't come forward, really try to modify the distance or even put the feet apart as you go forward. So we're really trying to sense what kind of movement is possible for our femur bone or the head of the femur in the acetabulum, which is our hip joint. This is not due to muscular tension. It's usually just the anatomical given of our skeleton, and we have to find and get know to ourselves, to find our circumstances so we can really optimally work on the liver meridian here. And so make sure that you have everything integrated, your shoulders and your neck. And we're seizing the body to find another perspective, not to force ourselves in a position that we have to fit in, but to really work with our own given circumstances and see what we need to find an activation. This little stressor that we can be bottom up, top down with and find growth. And maybe that's layer to layer with the sensing, another aid and support for your overall goal when it comes to your health. So to come out of the pose, again, with an exhale, find your navel connected to your spine. Slowly roll up and see that both pelvis halves are really equally pushed into the floor. You want to stack your vertebrae and then slowly release the pose, and we're keeping the right leg bent and shifting our left leg behind us for pigeon or swan. And maybe you're up on a bolster with the right pelvis, maybe you're on the floor, maybe the knees padded up in the back. See whatever you need to be able to be with the pose and be with yourself in this pose. And we're not trying to force anything and bringing this yang energy in, but we're really trying to connecting to the inside, to the sensing and the accepting. And how much can I feel and sense myself in space, that I can find this stretch or stressor in my right outer hip, maybe a stressor in the left front hip. And whenever I'm ready and I'm finding this, then I see if I can deepen it, if that's a good strategy for today. What nourishes me, or am I going away because it's too much? So you really want to work the boundary where you feel that you can be with yourself. Allow the shoulders to roll back and that you can be in contact with the heart and with the floor, so that you really have a benefit for yourself and for your own growth and awareness. And wherever our boundary may be today, let's really just wait there and see if the body reacts to our patience and opens up by itself. That's the yin. And we can stay committed on this boundary just to let things happen and not to force them. That's also yin. And to stay with this unusual, out of the ordinary experience. And see if we can be with this sensation and the impulse that we're bringing upon ourselves. See if you're tensing up your glutes, if the shoulders hike up, and if it's possible to cultivate this inner space and widen it, widen the capacity to sense, to be with, and to be aware of. And maybe the body's opening up and you're descending all by yourself without any struggle, going deeper without a fight. And we check whatever can become more soft. So all these protective layers that we've built, physically or psychologically, we can be with them and work through them by surrendering. And if we're in contact, it's safe for us to gently move forward. The body just lets us do what's okay for us right now. And this deepens our connection to ourselves and the trust in our body. And then very slowly to come out, you can sigh. Slowly walk your hands back towards your hips. Allow the shoulders to roll back to stay connected to the pelvis, so you really have this good support from the floor. Slowly releasing the right leg and arriving on your back. Releasing. Maybe there's a sigh coming. And try to sense the difference between your right leg and your left leg. And maybe you can feel that your hips or your hip on your right or your outer hip is fuller or wider. Sense whatever's your body giving you feedback of. And maybe sometimes there's this energy shift happening from the right to the left as both sides of the body communicate with each other. And then really rest. And in these moments of releasing, I have a choice of either going into my mind and just wanting it to be over, or really enjoying this stillness and this release of the exhale into the floor. That I can really also sense the breath, and especially the exhale, as a giving off of weight. So that we can also skip the record, the groove that is got stuck in, and come into a calm sensing. And as we are in the present, there is this sense of timelessness. And that can be my source of power and strength right now, when there's so much going on. And we're still here for 5 long deep breaths. Sense if you are resting in this affectionate place, whatever arises, and if you can stay with the floor and your breath. And if you have to yawn, just let it happen. Head is super relaxed, neck too. Last exhale. Maybe there's a sigh of relief coming very spontaneously. And then sense how you can guide also your internal world by shifting your inner focus to returning back to a relaxed activity. Maybe your head wants to turn. Maybe this happens in the rhythm of your own breath. Maybe we can roll over the side onto hands and knees. Take it slow, very slowly. And then slowly, with an exhale, let's mobilize ourselves. And we're going into the marauding bear, as if we would knee in a huge ball, and we're trying to bring all sides of our torso onto the inner walls of this ball or sphere without sitting back onto our heels, so our hips are directly over our knees. And we're just moving the spaces between the vertebrae on the back side, on the front side, on the sides, lateral parts of our body, on the torso. And all these tiny muscles that are actually in between the vertebrae, they are like sensors that tell our brain where we are in space. So if we go into a very conscious releasing of the head, so the bottom-up feedback can still work, we train our brain to get a more sense or a deeper sense of proprioception where we are in space and what we're doing. So be patient with you in this exercise. It's more than just a rapid circling, but more like a sensing exercise and a training of these proprioceptors that we have with these tiny muscles that tell us if our spine is aligned or offline, And at the same time, this is really, really, really a nice release for all the muscles of the back, the shoulders, and the side or lateral anatomical lines. If you have to yawn as you do this, just release the jaw and yawn. And then slowly arrive back up with this rounded C-curve spine and the navel drawing to the spine here for support of the lumbar spine, and then come back into a neutral position, shoulders firmly anchored to the pelvis. And then let's come with both knees to one side and can sit onto one side of our pelvis, and then come into the left leg in knee bend in an external rotation. Our left hip may rest on a bolster or on a block or on a sweater or be on the floor. And I try that I can sense and find myself, not that I'm a given picture on the outside, but that I really feel, oh yeah, I'm going into an activation for my glute area. So that's the stress we want to find. And then we being very mindful of how much we're deepening it, so we can still be with ourselves. Wide collarbones, the neck is released. And if this is well anchored, how far, without pain in the knee, do I want to go down towards the floor? So there's no unconscious activation of the shoulders. The shoulders are still integrated. We're working as one part as we dive deeper and going into our stressor. And maybe we can, with this practice, arrive in a place of ourselves where we don't need any control from the outside, not surrender to any outside authority, but really have such a good connection to ourselves, so that we can come into a sensing that's not coming from the brain in the terms of past experiences, but maybe this intuition in the body that knows about our way and knows what is suitable for us. And then this communication can start from the body to the brain and from the brain to the body. And there's this really cooperative feedback loop happening where we can sense what's rising up and if it's healthy actually, or if it's an old pattern, and govern ourselves on our way very upright. So we really want to practice also to listen and to sense the quality of what we're sensing, so we can educate ourselves in what constructively challenges us and what's coming from our essence and how that's supporting us, so that we can live an life in autonomy, but still in connection with ourselves and others. Because freedom comes from connection to the self. Even if it gets a little bit darker and we lose contact with ourselves, we can come back and reestablish the connection. So find this upright, innocent place in your practice where you're sensing, where you're aware of what's going on, how much your capacity is. If you're present, feeling the floor, the breath, the pose. And if you're coming out of your pose, just stay with the rebound. So everything wants to stay released and relaxed as we're slowly walking our hands back in. And we can do this breakdance move of swinging our right leg forward, releasing the left one, and coming very relaxed back onto our back. And feel free, if you need some support for your neck, that you can give yourself that. Slowly, with an awe, we're coming back onto our backs, releasing and resting. And you really can make sounds if you need this, if you're still coming out and need it some time. And if you need something for your resting position, if you're still coming out, feel free to get that. And see if you, once you've arrived on the floor, on your back, can come into a more calm space within you and without. So if we're resting there, we're opening up to something more expanded that we consciously know of. So if our practice is successful, at the end we come into this place where we can loosen up these tight constructions in our brain that we have established over the years. And it's very useful if we come to a place in our life where we can experience our life without this constant control, or to the place where we can also come back to the song of Leonard Cohen, saying there's a gap in everything, and that's where the light comes in. So we want to have this little bit of wiggling space where we don't know, and something life-sustaining that is in contact with our essence, knows our Dharma, and brings us into a new detail or expansion to add to our life. And if we're in connection with ourselves and that space, maybe it's also mirrored on the outside. And feeling the floor, sense that that might be the most powerful and important resource of security that you can give yourself. The most important and powerful inner resource you can give yourself. And maybe if there's a wave of love washing over you, accept it, bathe in it. Enjoy the love. And this joy of being able to sense this may spread throughout your body. And then I invite you with that release to sense again what's really, really important in your own life right now. And sense what really nourishes you on a deep level. What gives you power and strength. And maybe if there's a lot of things happening right now, that you can come back to this resource. And that we are leaving our practice space with this knowing of we can do this. And I just keep on my track, hiking up the mountain. And maybe sometimes I'm tired and I don't want to go further, but I'm keeping this light of my inner resource of being in connection deep in my heart. Find again your sankalpa. What do we need in this challenging times with shifting grounds and high waves, so that I can wake up in the morning and say, I'm here, I'm doing my best. Let's go. What do I still need in a connection to myself? Do I need to have more activation, more calm and peace? Maybe do I need to say to my loved ones how important it is that they're here? Is it important that I tell it to myself? If I'm in my heart and I'm present. Inhale one more time. Feel all of this with prana. And look back onto what has been moving you and what has moved over the last days. And wherever you are, maybe you're still lying, maybe you slowly make your way up to sitting. I wish for you to really have a nice closure of this class and of your day, so you can carry on mindfully in connection and with a loving heart. Very good. First rule of life, this is from Jordan Peterson: sit upright with your shoulders back. Sit up straight with your shoulders back. So if you came up, be without fear and carry on. And with this, I want to say goodbye and say thank you so much for practicing. I hope you sensed me a little bit through the screen. I sensed you very well today. And I hope for you to have a really nice evening. That the class can just reverberate a little bit into your evening and night. And that you can stay or be with yourselves. Thank you so much that you've all been here. Namaste.